I need to tell you what happened during my last week working the night shift at Wren Hollow psychiatric facility, because if I don't say it out loud to someone, I think I'll start believing I imagined it. I didn't imagine it. I have the bruises to prove it. I'd been working there for about 8 months. Wren Hollow is one of those old brick buildings from the 1950s, the kind that got renovated on the outside, but still smells like bleach, and something underneath the bleach that bleach can't quite kill. I worked the graveyard shift, 11 at night to 7 in the morning, mostly doing rounds, checking on patients, making sure nobody was trying to hurt themselves or each other. It paid well for the hours. That should have been my first warning. There was a patient in room 114 named Marcus. He'd been there longer than anyone on staff could remember, admitted before most of the current nurses had even started working there. Nobody talked about why he was admitted. When I asked my supervisor, she just said, "Don't go in his room alone," and changed the subject like I'd asked her something rude. For the first few months, that was easy. Marcus never made noise, never buzzed for anything, never even seemed to move much when I glanced through the little window in his door during rounds. He just sat in the corner of his room, facing the wall, completely still. I used to think he was almost peaceful, in a sad kind of way. That changed on a Tuesday night in October. I was doing my 2 a.m. rounds when I noticed his door was cracked open, not fully open, just an inch, like someone had forgotten to latch it. That shouldn't have been possible. Those doors lock automatically. I stood there for a long moment, just staring at that thin black gap, and I swear I could feel cold air pushing through it, like the room on the other side was somehow colder than the hallway. I should have called security. I know that now. Instead, I pushed the door open. Marcus wasn't in the corner. He was standing in the middle of the room, facing away from me, completely motionless, like a mannequin someone had posed there. The overhead light was off, but the room wasn't dark. There was this faint gray light coming from somewhere I couldn't place, like moonlight, except Wren Hollow didn't have windows on that side of the building. "Marcus," I said, "you should be sitting down. Let's get you back to bed." He didn't move, not a twitch, not a breath that I could see. I took a step closer, and that's when I noticed his shadow on the wall was wrong. It wasn't matching his position. His shadow was hunched forward, arms hanging low, head tilted at an angle his actual body wasn't tilted at. I remember telling myself it was a trick of the strange light, that shadows do weird things sometimes. I needed to believe that. Then Marcus's real body turned around to face me, slow and smooth, like it wasn't quite obeying normal joints. And his face was wrong too. His eyes were open too wide, and his mouth was curved into a smile so wide it looked like it might tear at the corners, and he said, in a voice that wasn't quite his own, low and layered like two people speaking at once, "You woke him up." I didn't understand what that meant. I still don't, not fully, but something in the room shifted, some pressure changed, like the air itself got heavier, and the gray light started pulsing. And I heard something scraping against the ceiling tiles above me, slow, deliberate, like fingernails dragging across the surface from the other side. I ran. I'm not ashamed to say that. I slammed the door shut behind me, and I heard the automatic lock click into place, and for one terrible second, I heard Marcus's voice, or the thing wearing Marcus's voice, laughing on the other side of that door, low and wet and delighted. I told my supervisor everything the next morning. She didn't seem surprised. She just sighed, like she'd been waiting for this conversation, and told me that Marcus had been an exorcism case decades ago, one that never fully finished, one the hospital board decided to just contain instead of resolve, because closing the case meant admitting something they couldn't explain in a medical report. She told me that every few years, a new night nurse wakes him up, and every time the facility quietly transfers that nurse to day shift and never speaks of it again. I asked her what happens if the thing in room 114 ever actually gets out. She didn't answer me. She just handed me a day shift schedule and told me to be grateful. I took the transfer. Of course I took it, but here's the part that keeps me up at night, the part I haven't told anyone until now. 2 weeks after I switched shifts, I got called back to Wren Hollow because they were short-staffed on a night I usually wouldn't have worked. I didn't go near room 114. I made sure of that. But around 3 in the morning, while I was charting at the nurse's station, the intercom on the wall crackled to life. Just for a second, just long enough for a voice to come through, low and layered, the same voice from that night.